Hi, I'm Dr. Sylvia Peregrino, and this is Entre Nosotras, Latina Voices. Today, we're continuing our conversation with Ms. Maya Sanchez, who is the City Administrator for the City of San Elizario. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
And so in our last show, we talked a little bit about the history of the reincorporation and some of the challenges and some of the rising property values and things like that. So usually I make my students watch these shows so that they get to see what happens grassroots. And so tell us a little bit about what a city administrator or a city manager does and how that's different from being an elected official.
Well, the city administrator, the makeup of our city is council is the top tier, the mayor is the second, and then the city administrator is the third. So all of my directives are given to me from either council or the mayor. And so really, it's a bit tough because we're only on 2-year terms. The type of city we incorporated to is a type A general municipality. And it only allows for 2-year terms. And that's a very hard amount of time for anyone to get a lot of work done. But we do our best, and so if someone who comes on council has a very clear vision for the community, then it's my job to see what we can do tangibly to get that vision into the community. Some council members have seen some of the work that was done before and the comprehensive plan and do agree with that, and so some of the work continues. But really that's the core of what I do. So when it comes to, let's say, we're not considering this right now, but let's say there's a noise ordinance that a council member wants to get included into a council meeting. It's my job to work with our legal department to help draft a noise ordinance that might be amenable to our city, and then that is presented to council. So I do a lot of the background work, the legwork, get it prepared to a place where legally it's vetted and then presented to council. I also help manage our city staff. We don't have a specific HR department, so a lot of HR issues come through me as well.
How big or how small is your city staff?
Oh, we're just about 15, 16 people. It's relatively small, and everybody wears multiple hats. They all work really hard.
That's really small compared to the city of El Paso or some of the other city of Horizon, some of the other cities nearby. Could you talk about how, as city manager, you work with other entities, either the county or other cities or municipal water districts?
Pretty much all the work that I do is working in collaboration with another entity. Everyone from the county of El Paso. A lot of the work we're doing with the county right now is focusing on the Mission Trail and the historic area and trying to support the incentivizing of businesses either expanding or starting in San Elizario and other parts of the Mission Trail. We also work with the county of El Paso. The city has the San Elizario Urban Agriculture project, and we work in conjunction with the county on that as well. The county has donated some of the space that they own for us to put in a demonstration garden that's used for technical support for those who want to engage in the urban ag project. We work in conjunction with some scientists out of Alabama who are helping us focus on growing economic development based on crops and produce and ornamentals that are adapted for our environment. So rather than having a community garden where you see the traditional fruits and vegetables of any community garden across the country, we want to focus on plants that are going to be salt and drought tolerant. So of course we also work with the Lower Valley Water District, the Water Improvement, all the different entities that have some sort of stakehold in our community. We try to work with them to get projects in that will be beneficial to our community.
And so you just piqued my curiosity there. Which would be vegetables or fruits that are organic to our region or that should grow in this climate?
So this year we are focusing on verdolagas, which is purslane. We are working with local businesses, food retail establishments to either sell it or restaurants to include it in their dishes. We also have a husk cherry, which is very similar to, it's a very sweet desert fruit. It is actually related to nightshade. If anyone in El Paso has had any weed problem, they've been fighting nightshade. It's those kind of sage-looking plants that have the yellow berries, that have purple flowers. Well, it has a cousin plant by the name of husk cherry that actually is sold in some of our local grocery stores right now, some of the chain grocery stores. But it's a delicious desert fruit that grows with little water. In fact, you water it too much and you'll have problems.
That's good to know. During the pandemic, I tried my chances at, farming strawberries and lettuce and everything died. But I don't think I have a green thumb.
Well, it's not just that. I think the program is teaching. So we have 3 tiers of our programming. We have people residents who just may want to beautify their properties and put in plants that aren't going to give them as much trouble when it comes to maintenance. We have people who are wanting to give fresh foods and supplement their meal planning and want to give fresh food that they feel that they can grow with our training and support there at their own home. And then third, there's those people who are entrepreneurs who are looking to start a business based on what this program can help support. Now, keep in mind, when we say drought tolerant and salt tolerant, what that means is kind of hard for people to understand here in the desert. It's growing fruits and vegetables and ornamentals in which we do not add any city water. We don't irrigate like the traditional farmers use the canals and the Rio Grande to irrigate. It's all based on water that we can capture that rains every year. So we have partnered with Coca-Cola to provide drums that are then used as part of our rainwater harvesting systems. So we have this whole setup at our county park that we've partnered with the County of El Paso. And now the next step is duplicating that at people's homes or businesses so that rainwater capturing, because it's not just through what people think of traditional rainwater harvesting, but it's diversion of water and creating ponding areas that are not just meant to soak up water and then you have to deal with the weeds, but are actually soaking up water because there's beneficial plants being planted there. So not only does it help with the production of this economic driver, it also helps with a lot of the flooding issues that we have here in El Paso County.
That sounds like a great sustainable development project, and then with a lot of positives. And so I grew up in El Paso. I've only been to San Elizario a couple of times. For those people in the audience that might never have been to San Elizario, why should we go visit San Elizario? What's there?
Well, when people think of San Elizario, they immediately think of our historic district, which is the jewel of our community, hands down. And not only does it have these beautiful, historic, and mostly rehabilitated buildings, those buildings are now home to many thriving businesses. And what's been wonderful to see is the transition from just 1 or 2 businesses that might be similar, like for example, it's known as an arts district. It's one of only 51 recognized Texas cultural districts in Texas. Downtown El Paso also has one as well. But as a result of this designation, a lot of people might think of it as just an arts place where only galleries are. But no, there's been a lot of new businesses to come in. We have a barbecue place, we have other restaurants, we have a coffee shop that also has a lot of collectibles available. The coffee shop owner, her daughter just opened a beautiful shop that has a lot of Mexican imports. We also have the Outlaw Bar and Grill, which is the restaurant at Licon Dairy. So we have, our historic district is definitely an attraction, but there's a lot to see along the way as well. And then, of course, more up-and-coming businesses, both in San Elizario and the revival that's happened recently in Socorro as well on the Mission Trail. One of their restaurants was recently featured in Texas Monthly as one of the best new restaurants of 2022. And I've yet to see anything negative said about this restaurant. And on social media, that's a rare thing.
Yes, so lots of things to do this summer, especially with higher gas prices. Maybe people can take advantage of things that are in their own backyard. And so I know I know when I was younger, I went to go see the Billy the Kid jail, and I've been to the Mission. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Can I go ahead and correct you really quickly?
Sure.
A lot of people, even in El Paso, call it the Mission, and the San Elizario Chapel has never been a mission. And so it's the one of the four, because the mother church is in Juarez. Then, of course, we have Isleta, Socorro, and San Elizario. It's the only one of the four that is not a mission. So we're also the youngest. We were established in 1789 as a presidio fort. And even today, you go to many military installations, and they have chapels on their bases. And so this was established as a church to serve the soldiers and their families. So it's a chapel versus a mission, which the intent is to Christianize the locals in the area. So the intention, and even in their architecture, is drastically different.
Good to know.
Yes.
I did not know that. So not a mission, but, and how about the first Thanksgiving? I know that that's always something that...
Well, technically, we are not the first in the Americas. St. Augustine, Florida, actually has proof of being a little bit earlier than ours, but that's not to say what happened in San Elizario is not significant, and in my opinion, is actually more significant than being a first Thanksgiving of many others that claim to be Thanksgiving. And the ceremony is called La Toma. And that is what it was. It wasn't a first Thanksgiving. It was a celebration of thanks, but it was something that, the colonizers who were coming through the desert, the Chihuahuan desert is harsh. They lost many along the way, and many died, and it was a time of great loss for those who were traveling through the Camino Real. However, when they got to the Rio Grande, they saw a bountiful area. So they had a religious ceremony called La Toma, which was a moment to recognize being brought through the desert and surviving this horrific journey. So it's similar to, for example, what the Pilgrims went through when they came across the sea, lost a lot of people to disease. It is similar, but this one is very, very tied to the faith that they had as well. And so that really is what it's significant for. And yes, that is the one that is still recognized, and depending on what side of the fence you fall on, that can also be controversial when the colonists from Spain came through. But that's really what the true history is. So rather than trying to piggyback off of someone else's history about a different area, we feel that it's even more unique to our area, because I don't know, I'm not a historian, but I'm not sure how many other recordings of the type of celebration that happened here in San Elizario really took place in the Americas.
And is that something that that the city commemorates, or?
The city actually has not. They've been involved in partnering with some of the different nonprofit and historical groups within San Elizario that do have, like every April, there's still a conference. There's, I believe, 2 nonprofits now that do have different events to commemorate what happened back in 1598, and other, very memorable moments in our history. But the city has not on its own sponsored something. We've only partnered with others who are doing the same.
And for people that maybe are interested in starting a business or moving to San Elizario, what would you tell them? How would you?
It's actually relatively easy to start a business in San Elizario. I think it is definitely an area that, in my opinion, is only going to grow in importance, especially as our region changes, due to the different focuses on industry that is happening right now. Like, for example, what's going on at UTEP with the aerospace engineering program that is now also has a presence not just in Van Horn, but in the far reaches of the county. Well, San Elizario is perfectly situated to be a space in which not just for tourism, but for business to grow. And so for those people, I won't say any of the famous names that are launching into space right now, if they really truly want a taste of what it's like here or what it was like here back in the day, San Elizario wants to retain a lot of that unique, locally grown entrepreneurial spirit, as opposed to attracting a lot of the national chains that may make San Elizario look like every other city across this country.
So I just went to Santa Fe over spring break. You want to be, well, not necessarily be Santa Fe, but keep the historical.
Right. So if you look at the whole of the Mission Trail, each of the communities that are there today were birthed out of something different. Ours was the military institution, the Spanish colonial. In Socorro, they have the Piro Indian, the Piro Nation that were the original inhabitants of the area. And there are restaurants and businesses that are starting to pop up that are honoring that tradition. And then, of course, in Isleta, you have the Isleta del Sur Pueblo, the Tiwas. And so history in our area doesn't just look like one thing. So each of these communities should reflect, even down to the architecture, what that unique feature in which they were established is. And I think so far that is being done. We just need to grow upon that. And from the city all the way through, we need to better support the growth of those businesses, because it's still a challenge. It's a challenge to open a business anywhere, especially in this time with the rise in materials and everything else. But if you are fighting your city and local governments to try to do so, that makes it even more challenging.
Does the city of San Elizario have like a small business incubator or
not
any
yet?
incentives?
It is something, like, for example, it's called, one of the incentives, a Chapter 380 incentive policy, is something that the city looked to incorporate quite a while ago. Although we haven't been able to yet, I really feel that should be part of the next stage of the growth of the community, is seeing what we can do better to support, the businesses that do decide to make San Elizario home. And not just in the historic district, but throughout the community. Because you ask anyone who lives there now, and there are quite a few services and goods that are very difficult to get in San Elizario, that we have to come into El Paso or other surrounding cities to get. And we'd like to have those things in our community as well.
I know that my students usually, I have them talk about the things that they like about their community. And most of the time they want fun, like entertainment or things to do. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about festivals or things that you have in San Elizario?
Well, each of our, I guess it's called food and beverage type of industries, businesses, hold their own events, from Licon Dairy all the way to the businesses in the historic district. They're always having different bands and events that are also geared to the family as well. in conjunction with the other businesses, whether they be art galleries, the coffee shops, some of the art galleries. Art gallery is such a blanket term for creative spaces, and that doesn't do justice to the type of businesses that are there. We have a metal worker. One of the businesses recently had a stained glass window making workshop. We've had Adobe workshops, because both in San Elizario and even in El Paso, people live in Adobe homes, yet in this day and age, they don't know how to maintain them. So these different types of events, the workshops that are fun and they teach you something, are also provided either in conjunction with the ongoing regular events like the Art Market Sundays that happen in San Elizario, or our standalone events that happen. And of course, around holidays, you'll always see bustling and different opportunities. The historical reenactments still happen. So there's quite a bit that still happens on a regular basis, especially from the spring to the fall months. This year, the city of San Elizario is hosting a fireworks spectacular, which is going to be unique to the area, because yes, it's going to be the aerial type of fireworks, but we are working with a fireworks company to put placement of these fireworks so that they frame the San Elizario chapel. So the photographic opportunities, I mean, I can't tell you, Google San Elizario mission or chapel or anything, and that church always comes up in such beautiful settings. Now imagine seeing that same church, but with all of these photographs with these beautiful fireworks going off around it. And we're hoping that that will be an annual event. So this will be the first year that we have it. It'll be on July 3rd, the night before 4th of July.
That's wonderful. And so something to look forward to that is a family-friendly event that you can take
Absolutely.
your kids and not spend money on.
Yeah, it'll be free to the public, and we're working with the school district. So, of course, our historic area will always have challenges with parking, but we are working with the school district so that for participants and spectators, they'll have a safe space to put out blankets and chairs so that they can see what these fireworks going on. So there should be plenty of space for everyone. We'll be shutting down the streets around the historic district so that it's safe for everybody.
Okay, well, that's something wonderful to look forward to for the 4th of July. And so I know I've been to San Elizario and to some of the art galleries. Do you do like a First Friday art walk?
Not yet. There's still a lot of ghost tours that happen on the Friday evenings. I don't recall exactly the times that they go out, if they're regularly scheduled or if it's part of a rotation from the different ghost tour companies. There's a few Facebook pages and websites that give information regarding what's happening in San Elizario. And so that's typically what we rely on for some of this information. There's also, besides what happens with the historic area and, along the historic corridor, we have regular businesses that, like we have a croissant shop, we have a dessert shop that's amazing. I mean, these Sundays are huge, so a lot of locally owned, not just food that's bad for you, but we have some healthy selections as well that have really healthy salads and things like that. So if some of the historic district food, once you try that, you'll get a chance to try other selections. In fact, San Elizario got its first Chinese restaurant just before the pandemic. So that was a nice addition to see, just a different type of food. And I think that's key right now. We're starting to see a lot of variety, not just in the food offerings, but in the type of activities and businesses that you'll have access to. There's smoke shops, there's antique stores, there's all sorts of things nowadays that have popped up, as opposed to just what, if you visited San Elizario, I don't know, 7-10 years ago, it's gonna be drastically different because there's so much variety in what is available to you these days.
That's wonderful. I know now I'm excited to go try some of these new places, and the vegetables that are more organic to this area, and hopefully organic as well. I know we've touched upon a lot of topics, both historical and then what are some of the things that are going on. I don't know if there's something that we haven't touched upon that you want to mention.
Well, I think just kind of going back to the collaboration with the county, they are in the process of finishing up a rehabilitation and reconstruction of a very significant building in San Elizario called Casa Ronquillo. It's also known as Viceroy Palace. I don't know the full history of this space, but I know that that is part of what the county is doing, providing the history of this space. I was all, kind of the history that's passed through generations. I was told it was also called Viceroy Palace because it was one of the places that the royalty that was coming through the Camino Real would stay for a little bit of respite as they continue their journey through the desert, and just relaxation and to recharge. But this space, I'm actually on a committee that has been formed by the county to gather information from the community there in San Elizario to see what is it that you want to see at this location. So I know there are plans to have some space for like a farmer's market of some sort, but as far as the programming and the activities that are going to take place there, we just met last week with the staff at Los Portales. They're about to launch a new exhibit that'll run from May to July on agriculture in San Elizario. So it was perfect timing with the urban ag work that we're doing. So it's going to focus on the history of and tradition of farming in San Elizario, as well as what the future is going to be, with interactive exhibits that would be conducive to young students as well as older students who are looking to do some more interesting scientific work. So there's a lot going on that we're excited about.
That's exciting and a good opportunity for our students to kind of see things firsthand and learn by doing. So I want to thank you for being with us today. And so our guest has been Maya Sanchez, City Administrator for the City of San Elizario. I'm your host, Sylvia Peregrino. This is Entre Nosotras, Latina Voices. If you want to catch some of our other shows, look into our EPCC TV YouTube page. We'll provide links to some of the activities going on in the City of San Elizario. Thank you.
Thank you so much.